Good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. I, of course, with Originator Success through the Daily Rate Lock Conversation, the only place on the web where you guys get to be a part of the conversation. Remember, you can join me live each and every day, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. This week, I'll be coming to you from Dallas, Fort Worth on Thursday. Tomorrow morning, I'll be at the airport. So anyway, you can join me live each and every day, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're watching the replay, do me a favor, give me a hashtag replay. Let me know what's going on. Let me know that you were here. Don't forget to smash that like button. Tell an LO friend that we're here, especially since Facebook shadow banned me and stopped alerting so many of you that I was doing the thing daily. But there's a backstory behind that, but we'll skip that. But anyway, if you are not signed up, make sure you get signed up for our free daily emails, emailed lock advice, www.ratelockadvice.com to your inbox each and every morning, absolutely free of charge. You can also sign up for our text alerts, www.ratetextalerts.com. $7 a month. You can't beat them. You should join them. Last but not least, don't forget to check us out at originatorssuccess.com. Working on a new demo on demand to really highlight for people. You know, I know that right now money is tight for many of you. Loans aren't closing. Transactions are down. I get it. And you've got to make good decisions when it comes to how you're running your business. So anyway, check us out at originatorssuccess.com. We're glad to show you how we can help you to get some loans from Google and social media. So let's say hi to live folks here this morning. We've got Thomas Everts here, Armando Sandoval live and paying attention. What's up, Armando? Dan Crowley, Casey Roberts, Tim Klyla. Great to see all of you here this morning. We're going to go over kind of the usual stuff pretty quick, and then we're going to talk about the press that's still out there for the loan level price adjustments and the misinformation that's circulating. And what's really concerning to me, not what's circulating out to, you know, on the consumer side, but it's how many originators are being caught off guard with this. And also, y'all are missing an opportunity on this. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump in and talk about what's going on this morning. Right now, mortgage-backed securities are up 27 basis points to start the day, which is fantastic. However, we've got consumer confidence data coming out at 10 a.m. So right now it's 9:34 a.m. Eastern time. When we see these, you know, bonds up 27 basis points, we may see ourselves lose ground if that consumer confidence data comes in strong, showing the economy is still resilient. If that consumer confidence data is down a little bit, it could actually open the door for a little bit more improvement. As far as what that actually translates here to the rate side, you know, again, we capped out last week around 6.75%. And we've seen things drop back down. Yesterday, a more significant drop than you know, really Monday was. That was Monday, rather. So more significant than what we saw later in the week, last week, rather, is where I was going with that. So last week we capped out around 6.75%, dropped back down a little bit, and we're seeing that drop back down. Are we going to get all the way down to the low sixes, 6.125%, 6%? Probably not. Not unless a lot of the data that comes out this week is weak data. What else we got coming on this week? We've got GDP data coming out still. So we got consumer confidence today. We have a 2-year treasury auction at I think 1 p.m. Not really going to be anything of a shaker. And then we've got our normal stuff going on. We've got the GDP data coming out. We got PCE inflation data on Friday. I don't anticipate that to be a big thing, though, because everybody's pretty firmly entrenched with the belief of what's going to happen with the Fed rate hikes. Right now, you know, again, we get that meeting about a week from tomorrow. 85 to 90% belief that we're going to have a 1/4 point rate hike. I don't know who's still lagging, but I'm kind of surprised by that. It's almost a given that we're going to see a rate hike. And then the question is what's going to happen in June. Right now, the overwhelming belief is the Fed will pause. We've seen that 5.25 was up as high as a 25, 28% probability that we would see another Fed rate hike in June. That's starting to see that sentiment pull back a little bit, which is a good sign. It's what we want to see. We want to see markets, you know, slow down. Basically, by July, still expecting to see a 5% cap, you know, basically peak Fed funds rate. By the time we get to September, they're looking for the first Fed rate hike. So remember, just a couple of months ago, when we hit that banking nonsense, they were looking in June that we were going to see rate hikes. That has totally floated away. We're not really, you know, seeing that anymore. Right now, expectations are that we could see it in September. We get to November. we're at 4.5, and then December at 4.25, maybe 4.5. So right now, this is actually a really good sign that markets are starting to believe that the Fed's going to have to slow down and pull back. We need to see the economic data support recessionary conditions with a slowing economy, labor market. Next week, we not only have the Fed meeting and, of course, the press conference, but then we have jobs data on Friday. So next week's going to be a big week for rates. This week should be a little bit quieter. Not much that we have to worry about. The lock float advice, remains very much the same. Cautiously float everything right now. Don't look for rates to fall too far, but we could continue to improve a little bit more if we're lucky. We're going to see where that data comes in at 10 a.m. That's going to be a big thing as far as what we're looking at. Let me go ahead and pop this full screen and we'll show this to you guys here. So, looking at this, you can see we've got a really nice, consistent uptick in mortgage-backed securities. As this line goes up, rates are improving. So we've seen that, over the last 5 days, we've seen a pretty nice recovery since the kind of the worst level that we saw, which was last Wednesday. And we, started out the day at 99.94 as a low. And, that's quite a bit. We're up about 100 basis points since then. So we've seen pricing improve. Looking at the 10-year here, let's zoom in on that for a minute. I want to show you guys. Let's see. Nope, doesn't want to. Hold on. Let me get this in the right spot here and refresh the page. But I want to show you that 10-year treasury yield. The big thing about that is it broke the 200-day moving average yesterday, which was very significant. See this purple line right here? We broke through that. That's a good sign. Drop back down, and that's actually a pretty big indicator we want to watch. That low 3.4 area, 3.40 right now at 3.43. We've seen that act as some resistance in the past. We want to see if that's going to kind of be the same thing here. Also, looking at the technicals, make sure that you keep an eye on kind of what we're looking at here as far as the mortgage-backed security technicals. We've got this 200-day moving average right here. That's at 100.89. Right now, bonds at 100.84. So we're kind of testing that 200-day moving average. We've had a very, very hard time staying above that. So it's unlikely without anything else to give us a push that we're going to see a significant improvement from here. So with that in mind, the idea is you may want to consider going ahead and locking anything closing near term by the end of today, especially if we do hold on to these early gains right now up 25 basis points. We'll see what that data comes in about 20 minutes and if that helps things out. So with that said, I want to introduce a guest today, something I don't do that often. We got John Washburn here, the Dean of Mortgages. And John, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Your lock updates are crucial. Just wanted to tell you, thank you so much. Well worth the $7. Our team uses them every single day. I wanted to talk to you about something that we had spoken about a little bit last week, and something that it's just popped up in the news here again recently, even though the Fannie and Freddie announced in January that they were going to be making changes to loan level price adjustments. It seems that here in the last week, a bunch of hullabaloo has been raised, and I just wanted to talk to you about it.
Yeah. So everybody, I'm going to throw it up on the screen real quick. This is one of the screenshots that's made its way onto a lot of Facebook pages here, which was there's the same scenario. And I've got to be careful here because I don't want to come across as being better than anybody else. I got sucked in on this in the first 5 minutes when I saw it. And I'm like, yeah, this whole people with higher FICO scores paying more money than people with lower FICO scores. That's nonsense. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I don't remember seeing that. And here's the deal, y'all. This is making its way out there on social media. And I see consumers being confused by this is one thing. And I know that consumers are going to be confused by this because the media has pulled this all out of whack. And John, get ready. I'm going to have you tell everybody kind of where that came from. But as far as why we're bringing this up today, I just want to make sure that all of you, my friends that watch, and John, John's participating, that you guys know what's going on. Don't get sucked into this example. And John, tell everybody a little bit about this example and, kind of where it came from and what's wrong with it.
Yeah. So best I can tell, again, these changes were announced in January. A bunch of loan officers all over the country talked about it. Actually, the biggest change that was made in January is the one that's not even being mentioned. It's the change to the DTI. So if you have a debt to income ratio over 40, all of a sudden, a couple months from now, your rates are going to get more expensive. But anyway, last week, a single solitary author for a website that is explicitly partisan discovered this news, and he wrote it from a certain angle where he found a chart, that the chart that you're looking at right now on your screen. He found that chart, and this reflects the changes from the old LLPAs, loan level price adjustments, to the new loan level price adjustments. And apparently he misinterpreted this chart to assume, that those people in that red section are actually going to be getting charged for their interest rate more than the people in the green section.
Right. Let me jump in on this. So if you look at this, it's almost obvious now that you take a minute and look at it. What he did is he looked at the biggest red area, which is minus 0.75. And he looked at the biggest green area, which is a positive of 1.75. And he said, look at this. There's a surcharge. 740 or higher FICO credit scores are going to get a 1% surcharge, but the people here are getting a fee discount if you've got a 679 or lower credit score. Now, this is actually correct data because it shows 15 to 20% down payment, 5% down payment or less. But the way that this was with surcharge and fee discount, and this is actually incorrect. It's not that there's a surcharge or a fee discount. What they're not really looking at are the actual LLPAs. And let me see if I zoom in on this, if you guys can read this a little bit closer. But what that then turned into all over social media is this headline that lower credit scores get better interest rates and blah, blah, blah. And people don't have any context to LTV. Now John, I'm sure you can agree with me that, the idea of charging a higher LTV borrower less than a lower LTV, in other words, putting 20% down should never increase risk, and it should never cost more, but it does. And we know that that's broken. Would you agree that that's broken?
Yeah, that is broken, but it's been this way as long as I've been in mortgages, and it's pretty simple. Lenders like it when you're paying mortgage insurance.
But it hasn't. It hasn't always been that, because right here is your old versus your new, right? So when you had a 700 borrower that was putting 80% down, 80.01, or even if right here 75 to 80, you're right here there was that 1.125 versus 1%. So I'm gonna backpedal and say you're right. There is a difference between putting less than 80% versus having that mortgage insurance right here. There was actually, even on the old LLPAs, the better rates, the better credit scores, there was kind of a penalty here. On the old ones. So it is definitely larger on the new ones and what's here. And for, those of you that are out there, you could talk about if your lender allows you to do a higher loan amount and the first couple payments, do a large reduction, my vocabulary is going to shit this morning, but basically doing a large payment and then do a recast. And you can get that lower payment over time if you get the recast. If not, the consumer, let me put it to you this way. Most people that are putting 20% down are not going to be that upset if their mortgage payment remains higher by $60 a month, right? Most people, I'm putting that stereotype out there. I think that if, again, as a consumer, if I was paying, doing this, I wouldn't care if my mortgage payment's going to remain a little bit higher. I would still put that larger cash chunk down, even if I couldn't do a recast, because it absolutely does change your amortization on a mortgage. And many people don't understand, many LOs don't understand how an amortization works on a mortgage, but we won't go too deep there. But so we've seen this thing here, and this is a lot of misinformation. Again, I'm going to throw up Messenger for a minute, and I'm going to show you guys, he won't get mad. I'm going to show you guys that a buddy of mine that was, he's an old friend. He said, "Hey, Hammer, I hope you guys are doing well. Wanted to find out if there's any truth to the government penalizing low risk, high credit score mortgage applicants to subsidize higher risk applicants. Figured you would know the real scoop." I mean, I've even got friends from years ago that are reaching out to me about this stuff. So you guys have to know how to answer this. And for our Originator Success members, what I did is last week on Friday, we sent out an email to all their agents. Part of our system, what we do is we actually we have what we call agent power tips. Every Friday, we send out an email on behalf of our members to their agents with some kind of business building tip, things like that. So what I did is I recognized that a lot of what's going out on the media right now, or a lot of social media, is focused on this negative. And what they're missing is that when you compare the old and the new loan level price adjustments, higher LTVs are getting the benefit. No matter the credit score, they've gotten better benefits, and they compare. So I sent out this email to agents that said, "Hey, there's a lot of questions about recent mainstream media press. Thought I'd share this to clarify what's actually happening. Read the bullets below, see how these changes will help all borrowers. Reply back and let me know if this helped clarify things for you." And I gave them some bullet points. And those bullet points were, that the changes to loan level price adjustments are, what they are. And, kind of the second thing was that many media sources are quoting this graph from Mortgage News Daily, which Matt Graham is an awesome guy that puts together some great stuff. And they're misinterpreting this data that he put together is what they're doing. And then, I said, lower credit score borrowers still pay more. In fact, adjustments went down, and I can help you with this. And this kind of stuff, this resulted in some really good results that many of you have talked about. In fact, Ryan Kearns, he got, "Hey, thanks for the info. Next buyer is yours. Have a wonderful day." Response from a realtor to the power tip that just went out. I've never before gotten the kind of feedback I get with Originator Success. So there's a plug for you guys on why our stuff is awesome and why you should use it. But John, let me kick it back over to you, my friend, and you tell everybody a little bit about what you wanted to say today.
Yeah, no, so great stuff. The thing I've been stressing is, number one, that chart is a reflection of change. It's not the actual LLPAs. There is not a single scenario where a borrower with a lower credit score is going to get a cheaper interest rate than a borrower with a higher credit score if they're putting the same amount down. It is still better for all borrowers. It is still cheaper for all borrowers with high credit scores to get the same rate than it is for someone with a low credit score. The example I've been giving is if you compared Shaquille O'Neal's free throw percentage to Stephen Curry's free throw percentage over time. There was one year where Shaq improved from 42% to 50%. And there was another year where Steph declined from 93% to 81%, right? And so if you looked at those two changes in a vacuum, Shaq was in the green by 8% and Steph was in the red by 12%. But at no point in history has Shaquille O'Neal ever been a better free throw shooter than Stephen Curry? And it's that same way today with interest rates. It is still much cheaper for people with high credit scores to get the same rates that it is for people with low credit scores. That gap has shrunk. It's not Secretariat winning the Belmont Stakes anymore. It's Secretariat winning the Kentucky Derby by 2.5 lengths instead of 31, right? The gap between the two has shrunk, but it is still dramatically better for people with higher credit scores than lower credit scores. The other thing I also wanted to talk about is you'll see a lot of the green in that chart in these bottom three sections. And those rows from a loan officer perspective are basically fake rows anyway.
Because you're not getting approved eligible.
Yeah, I mean, last March when Fannie updated AUS, it became much more difficult for you to approve any conventional borrowers with credit scores below 680. Even if you can, if they're not putting 20% down, the mortgage insurance difference is huge, right? On a $400,000 loan, if you have a 640 credit score, your mortgage insurance is $421 a month. If you put that exact same borrower into an FHA loan, his mortgage insurance is only $157 a month. Any good loan officer that lives in a market where listing agents are accepting FHA loans, need to point that out, right? But any good loan officer that lives in a market where agents will accept FHA loans is going to try to push that borrower into an FHA loan because it's dramatically better for him, even in the unlikely scenario where he does happen to qualify. So this is honestly, it's one of those things where politicians do this all the time. You make a change that sounds good, but is really not going to have very much practical impact at all. I see anyone in these bottom 3 rows, and it's like, sure, I guess it's better for you now than it was, but you're probably not a conventional borrower anyway. And it's not going to change that much.
What we may see is some tinkering with the algorithm in the back end. But to wrap this up, I just want to, again, what everybody should be doing, not that Matt Graham didn't do an amazing job with this. This is a great graph, but avoid using this for comparison purposes. Most people don't understand how to read this data. Look at the old and the new LLPAs. I took just purchase money LLPAs and put them together, and was basically just comparing apples to apples. And you could see that they increased the credit score branches here. So you've got above a 740 was the cap before. Now you've got 2 new columns, or 2 new rows rather, with 760 to 779 and above a 780. And you look, those have actually everybody was a 1/4 point add-on before, and now it's 3/8, and it's definitely higher for an at a 740 to begin with. And again, this is broken. I'm not going to say that it's not, but when you look at this, when you do have somebody that's at 80 LTV versus 79.9, there's an 1/8 of a point difference here. For some reason or another, there's no difference at a 720 to a 739 score. There's an 1/8 of a point difference here. There's an 1/8 of a point. So it is not a huge difference. And then once you get to these credit scores, again, no difference here on these upper 2 tiers. So is the thing broken? Sure, it's broken. It makes no sense. But this is the mortgage business. We've dealt with underwriters for decades. How many times have you had a conversation with an underwriter that made no logical sense? I mean, I can't tell you. I haven't originated in years, but I can't tell you how many hundreds of conversations that made me scratch my head and wonder, how is it that somebody that can barely afford to scrape together 3.5% is a better horse than somebody that is, got $800,000 in the bank and everything else, but because of whatever else, they can't show something, or they you can't use this particular income source or whatever. Makes no logical sense. So don't ever look for that. But Allison's got it up there too. So I'm gonna wrap up. We're up to 10. We're getting close to 10 a.m. I don't want to hold you guys too long, but don't be the LOs right now. I see people that are looking on Facebook and getting outraged because they see that blurb about how and it's not even correct. It's not even right. And this is an opportunity for you guys as originators to be out there talking to agents, especially agents that you don't do business with. Their loan officers may not. Listen, it's a dog eat dog world. I don't care what anybody says. Their loan officers may not. Educating them gives you a chance to get it and get in on that. Same thing for consumers. Put this stuff on your social media. Dan Crowley said the other day that he got some great results from our post that we put on social about this. These are these little opportunities that pop up for you guys to get business. Take advantage of it is my advice. John, anything you wanted to add or before we wrap up?
No, great points. Like you said, I think the 2 new credit bands on top are important. It is now much better for you to have a 785 credit score than it was before. You were lumped in with a 742. There was no advantage. You now have an advantage. And something else you said that you sent out in the email, I think this is important. For every single borrower that exists, if you're putting 5% down, these new LLPAs are better for you, whether you have good credit or bad credit. It's better across the board. So if you're really worried about people that are not as well qualified, there's a group. It is better for those people. And yeah, curious things going on at the 15 and 20% LTV. I don't get it. I mean, I understand it's been this way for a little bit. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's what we're rolling with. And I think you offered some great options for, recasting and different things that you could even work around that.
So awesome. Well, thanks for hopping on, man. Appreciate you. If anyone has any comments, tag John in in the Facebook comments, and he'll keep an eye out for that. I'll get notified on that. And I will be coming to you guys from the airport tomorrow. So I'll see everybody then. Take care, John.
Thank you, sir.